Welcome along to the deep dive. This is where we really try to cut through the noise on a topic and pull out the key insights for you. And today, well, we're focusing on what has to be one of the most, let's say, enigmatic square miles anywhere on Earth,
There's
London.
but let's be clear right from the start. We're not actually talking about Greater London,
Yeah.
the huge sprawling city everyone thinks of. We're going deep on the City of London. People often call it the Square Mile, and it's this ancient self-governing core right at the heart of the capital. It's it's got an identity and a history that's quite different.
And ancient is definitely the word. I mean, this was the original Roman Londinium, right? Founded over, what, 2,000 years ago. So I suppose the big question we're asking today is how does a place with such deep, continuous history still manage to be right at the forefront of global finance?
Exactly. That's the fascinating part, that duality. It's not just some, quaint historical relic. This deep history, maybe surprisingly, seems to be a vital part of its resilience, its modern financial strength. That's the paradox we want to sort of unpack.
Okay, so let's start with the name itself, the square mile. That's pretty literal, isn't it? It really is just one square mile. I mean, just try to picture the sheer amount of history and power and influence crammed into such a, well, tiny space. How does that small footprint shape what it is today?
Well, that tiny footprint is, without doubt, the financial center of the UK.
Yeah.
And frankly, a global powerhouse. You've got the London Stock Exchange there, obviously critical for global markets,
Yeah.
and the Bank of England. Its operational independence over the centuries has been pretty key for financial stability. And it's not just the big banks either. You find all these unique specialist services, like marine insurance at Lloyd's of London, which, started in a coffee house back in the 1600s.
That's amazing. A place making these huge global financial decisions. But the really striking thing is, like you said, amidst all the modern glass and steel, you're constantly sort of tripping over history. You mentioned ancient alleyways, medieval churches squeezed between office blocks, even Roman ruins you can actually see under the streets. It's less like history next to modernity and more like modernity built right on it.
Oh, absolutely. It's that layering, that continuous presence that gives the city its unique character. Think about St. Paul's Cathedral. Sir Christopher Wren designed it after the Great Fire of London in 1666. Rebuilding it wasn't just, putting up another church. It was this huge statement about London's resilience, and it actually guided how the city was replanned afterwards, literally shaping its future streets.
Right. And then just outside its eastern edge, you have the Tower of London, built by William the Conqueror, back in the 11th century. It's this massive fortress palace, prison, symbol of power for, goodness, almost 1,000 years. Having something that old and solid right next to the buzzing financial district, it's quite a contrast visually.
It really is. And it underlines the city's enduring identity. If you've ever walked around its edges, you might have seen these dragon statues. They mark the boundaries. And they're more than just decoration. They symbolize the City of London's unique self-governing status, a tradition that's older than many countries.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting for a lot of people. What does that independence actually mean, practically speaking? Because yes, the city has its own separate mayor, the Lord Mayor of London. And crucially, this is not the same person as the mayor of Greater London who looks after the wider capital. This is a distinct ancient role just for the square mile with all this historical weight and ceremony.
Precisely. And the body that governs it is the City of London Corporation. Its roots go back over 900 years. It runs with this unique mix of, ancient governance traditions and modern business efficiency. That's how it keeps its autonomy and, looks after its commercial side. Part of that involves delivery companies, too, these old guilds that still play a big role today in charity, education, professional standards.
Hmm.
They really embed that sense of continuity.
And just to give people a really concrete example of how deep these traditions run, what about the Lord Mayor's Show? This huge parade through the streets every year. It's been happening almost nonstop since 1215. 1215, that's not just history, it's a living tradition connecting today right back to the medieval era.
It's quite remarkable, isn't it? And somehow this living history seems to provide a kind of anchor for all the fast-paced financial change. So, whether you imagine yourself walking along the Thames there, maybe popping into the Museum of London to see bits of Roman wall they dug up nearby, or perhaps grabbing lunch in Leadenhall Market, that amazing Victorian building, you're constantly surrounded by this blend. It's a place where, yeah, every corner, every little alleyway, it has stories from centuries ago, but it's also driving global commerce right now.
So that sort of wraps up our quick tour of the City of London. It really is a square mile of wonder, isn't it? A place that doesn't just, connect its Roman past to its financial future, but seems to actually draw strength from that deep history.
hmm Which leaves us with, I think, quite a compelling question for you to ponder. How does this self-governing entity, so bound up in ancient traditions, unique governance going back more than 900 years, how does it manage not just to keep going, but to stay right at the absolute cutting edge of global finance? And what does that unusual, almost paradoxical resilience tell us about how cities might evolve in the 21st century? Something to think about.